To have actually drawn 3 to Calamity's experts here, far more lively than I expected, ha 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 ha. Fang Chen's expression, however, gradually darkened. He keenly sensed that the situation was sliding toward an uncontrollable abyss. From the very instant the Asura Holy Son appeared, a thorn had embedded itself in his heart. This opponent was cunning and devious, and would never lightly put himself in danger. The 3, including the Grand Libationer of Tianju, also faintly sensed a trace of something amiss. Their eyes met, a silent understanding forming instantly, and without a word they struck in unison. The 9 Nether Demon Venerable's bloodline talent, the ancient Zen Buddha Venerable's world, Ran, sending Brahma voice, and the Grand Libationer of Tianju's Law of Wrath. Each of these 3 powers rivaled the full force strike of a 6 Suns giant emperor, representing the mightiest divine might the Central Plains could unleash at this moment. Under their combined assault, even a 7 Suns giant emperor, who stood above them, would likely perish on the spot in bitter resentment. Yet the Asura Holy Son still laughed wildly at the sky. Until the moment those 3 world-ending attacks crashed down fiercely, a sudden change occurred. A bizarre bloodlight erupted from the Asura Holy Son's chest. A fist-sized blood, red crystal lotus bloomed on his chest, vivid and delicate as if just cast from a pool of blood. Fang Chen's pupils constricted, his heart gripped as if by a vice. This blood lotus looked terribly familiar. To be precise, it was the material of the lotus that struck him with a palpitation of familiarity, as if he had seen it somewhere before. What made Fang Chen's scalp tingle even more was that the 3 terrifying combined strikes, capable of sinking an entire province, were all silently devoured by that eerie blood radiance. In the next instant, the blood crystal lotus erupted with a blazing crimson light, so intense it dyed the entire firmament into an Asura blood realm. An aura of extreme danger, making one's soul tremble, rippled outward from the lotus heart layer by layer. The faces of the Grand Libationer of Tianju, 9 Nether Demon Venerable, and ancient Zen Buddha Venerable all changed color simultaneously. Fang Chen's pupils also contracted sharply, his heart pounding so violently it felt about to burst. This sensation, was it not the same whirl-shattering destructive aura that the 9 Suns giant emperor had exuded when stepping into the heavenly realm? This is the aura of the 9 Hells Asura Emperor. On the Asura Holy Son's person, there was actually a world, destroying treasure containing a full power strike of the 9 Hells Asura Emperor. The Asura Holy Son laughed uproariously at the sky, his laughter making the void itself tremble. Fang Chen, you can't be naive enough to think that if I was determined to kill you, I would let you stall until this moment. Fang Chen's heart sank completely into the abyss. He finally understood. The Asura Holy Son had revealed his true body openly in the Great Wilderness Province precisely to pressure the top-tier powerhouses of the Central Plains, forcing them to actively guard Fang Chen. In this way, when he boldly struck to suppress and kill Fang Chen, he could take down 1 or 2 of the Central Plains apex experts along with him. Originally, only the Grand Libationer of Tianju was openly protecting Fang Chen. Unexpectedly, the 9 Nether Demon Venerable and ancient Zen Buddha Venerable also got dragged in. Such gains far exceeded expectations. The blood-red crystal on the Asura Holy Son's chest now bloomed with overwhelming force like a breached flood, its whirl-dending power capable of plunging all creation into sorrow and overturning heaven and earth, gushing forth unstoppably. The 9 Nether Demon Venerable and ancient Zen Buddha Venerable felt their scalps explode with terror. They wanted to flee, but every escape route was utterly sealed. Fang Chen's mind went completely blank. How could he possibly survive the world-destroying strike of the 9 Hells Asura Emperor? The figures of the 4 were instantly swallowed by the bloodlight, vanishing together into the boundless crimson. What awaited them seemed only to be completely melted away, returning to nothingness. However, just when the ancient Zen Buddha Venerable and the others already felt the icy chill of impending death, the raging bloodlight filling the sky suddenly began to rapidly contract and collapse. This stretch of heaven and earth had at some unknown time become saturated with an ancient and boundless rhythm. They abruptly looked up to see a vast expanse of brilliant 5-colored auspicious clouds coalescing from the void above, with streaks of fine lightning silently rolling within the clouds. This scene was not unfamiliar to Fang Chen. He blurted out in shock, "Ancient Saint." It was precisely the ancient saint of Cloud Desolation who had repeatedly helped him through desperate crises from the shadows. When the Central Plains once plunged into a near-apocalyptic catastrophe, she had not lifted a finger, yet now, when 4 were in danger, she descended to the mortal world against her usual pattern. Under the suppression of the ancient saint of Cloud Desolation, the berserk blood light, as if meeting its natural predator, was forcibly compressed back into the blood crystal lotus and fell silent. An already triggered attack of the 9 Hells Asura Emperor was actually compressed back into a sealed state. Such a heaven-defying method left not only Fang Chen, but also the 9 Nether Demon Venerable and others with faces full of reverence, their eyes filled with immense shock as if beholding a deity. Immediately after, the blood crystal lotus flashed out of thin air, abruptly vanishing from the Asura Holy Son's embrace. When it reappeared, it was already floating amidst the 5-colored cloud haze. Amidst the churning clouds, a graceful silhouette of a woman vaguely emerged, her soft hand gently holding the blood crystal lotus before fading into nothingness along with the 5-colored clouds dissipating between heaven and earth. Everyone felt dazed and disoriented, as if trapped in a dream. The 9 Nether Demon Venerable drew a sharp cold breath, his sinister and stern face filled with shock. In an era when saints lie dormant, the ancient saint of Cloud Desolation, Tuli, made an exception and showed herself for the likes of us. The ancient Zen Buddha Venerable pressed his palms together, Buddha light surging like tides in his eyes. Our Buddhist kingdom has accumulated merit for 10,000 years. Final. Why moving the ancient saint of Cloud Desolation to bestow blessings? Amitabha, excellent, excellent. Only the Grand Libationer of Tianju saw through it clearly, ruthlessly shattering their delusions. Stop flattering yourselves. Even if you died 100 times, the ancient saint of Cloud Desolation wouldn't bother to spare you a single glance. She came for the Starfire Venerable. The 9 Nether Demon Venerable and ancient Zen Buddha Venerable both turned to look at Fang Chen, the former's face filled with stunned disbelief, the latter wearing a pensive expression. They had not the slightest doubt about the Grand Libationer of Tianju's words. Yet the more they believed, the more their hearts churned like stormy seas. The ancient saint of Cloud Desolation actually emerged from seclusion for a mere divine transformation cultivator. Was this still the transcendent being above worldly affairs that they knew? Fang Chen, on the other hand, seemed rather accustomed to it. He had already stirred the ancient saint of Cloud Desolation more than once. His gaze sharp as a blade, he locked onto the Asura Holy Son and said coldly, "You'd better pray you have a second blood crystal lotus on you." The Grand Libationer of Tianju also snapped back to attention, his face showing fierce killing intent, the power of the 2 calamities sage realm surging madly in his palm as he flipped his hand to strike the Asura Holy Son. "Grand Libationer, hold your hand, he is not the Asura Holy Son." The Grand Libationer of Tianju, 9 Nether Demon Venerable, and ancient Zen Buddha Venerable abruptly halted, all turning to look at the distant Asura Holy Son, eyes blazing with shock and suspicion. The person before them was not the Asura Holy Son. Then who was he? Fang Chen stared coldly at the Asura Holy Son and said, word by word, the real Asura Holy Son would never personally risk himself, and would never be so easily suppressed, even briefly, by the soul of a mere divine transformation cultivator like me. If my guess is correct, you are nothing but a puppet controlled by the Asura Holy Son, right? As soon as these words fell, the opposite Asura Holy Son suddenly revealed a smile, even more maniacal than before. Ha ha ha! The Asura Holy Son laughed wildly, showing not a trace of frustration from the blood crystal lotus being blocked, but instead appearing even more exhilarated. Immediately, a layer of blood, colored light on his body distorted and flickered chaotically, as if an invisible cover had been violently torn away. In the next instant, the Asura Holy Son before them revealed his true appearance. His upper body was a robust human physique within black hair and dark eyes, his bare chest roped with knotted muscles exuding explosive oppression. His lower body, however, was a long, thick black serpent tail, scales gleaming with a cold, dark sheen in the faint light. Behind his head hovered a divine ring, clearly branded with 5 blazing flame marks. He was no other than the Black Dragon, Great Venerable, who had vanished mysteriously from the heavenly remnant city and had been unheard of ever since. Only now his pitch-black eyes were struggling and twitching violently, clearly indicating that another consciousness was lurking and entrenched within his body. "Asura Holy Son, you dare scheme against me," the Black Dragon Great Venerable roared with sky-shaking fury. A calm and cold voice then drifted out from his own mouth. "You can only blame yourself for being as stupid as a pig. The ancestral blood of myriad spirits I gave you, and you actually dared to swallow it without even asking. No pies fall from the sky a truth, even a 3-year-old child knows, yet you, a lofty Great Venerable, knew nothing of it. Falling to this state today is entirely your own doing." The Black Dragon Great Venerable was so enraged that his scales bristled all over. "Asura Holy Son, you've gone too far." Back when he was at his wits' end, the myriad cloud sage dispatched his servant, the demoness, to find him, promising him shelter and gifting him an incomparably precious myriad spirit's ancestral blood. The only condition was that he would have to do one thing for him in the future. But he never expected that the true identity of the myriad cloud sage was actually a transformation of the Asura Holy Son. Within the myriad spirit's ancestral blood gifted to him, a trace of the Asura Holy Son's true lifeblood had been secretly hidden. After consuming it, his physical body was completely locked down by the opponent's bloodline power. Heh, and even in the worst case scenario, if you weren't used by me, sooner or later you would have fallen into Fang Chen's hands. As a chess piece, you should have the self-awareness of a chess piece. The Asura Holy Son turned his cold, playful eyes toward Fang Chen and clicked his tongue in regret. What a pity I couldn't obtain the hell-suppressing soul-quelling scripture. If I could obtain it, it would be nothing short of perfection. Fang Chen stared at him intently, his tone as cold as iron. Where is your true body? The Asura Holy Son was manipulating the Black Dragon, Great Venerable, and had set up such a massive death trap. Behind it, he was surely plotting an even more terrifying objective. Where is he? And what is he preparing to do? The Asura Holy Son curled his lips playfully. I am naturally in the heavenly province. While you sages have all sallied forth in full force, I'm off to slaughter the remaining elites left behind in each province. Ha 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 ha. But Fang Chen's gaze was as calm as water, and he shook his head resolutely. You are not in the heavenly province. The Asura Holy Son had paid such a heaven-shaking price, even using a trump card like the Nine Hells Asura Emperors strike a world-destroying heavy treasure. How could his final target be merely to squash a mere few individuals at the spirit transformation realm? The Asura Holy Son chuckled lightly, his tone provocative. Then, why don't you guess? Fang Chen's heart burned with silent anxiety. Behind these seemingly playful words, the Asura Holy Son was undoubtedly brewing something extremely terrifying at this very moment. We must, absolutely must stop him. But where is he? Where exactly is he hiding? Fang Chen's thoughts spun like lightning. Countless complex ideas clashed fiercely deep in his mind as fragments of information and subtle clues merged and converged madly. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration shot through Fang Chen's mind. His entire face abruptly changed color as he shouted in a deep voice, "You're in Taikang Major Province." And more specifically, on the mainland. The Nine Nether Demon Venerable immediately gasped in shock. Isn't the mainland forbidden to spirit transformation cultivators, and even sages are barred? How could he possibly go? Before he could finish, his voice came to an abrupt halt. The ancient Zen Buddha Venerable's long eyebrows suddenly flew upward, and within his peaceful eyes, raging storms surged in an instant. The great libation master of Heavenly Province was even more shocked and lost his voice. The Cloud Desolation ancient saint just left. The very existence of the restriction barrier was originally because the Cloud Desolation ancient saint presided over the mainland. Aside from Fang Chen, anyone who dared defy the restriction would be personally erased by her. But once she left the mainland, that so-called restriction became as worthless as a piece of scrap paper, easily torn apart. The great libation master of Heavenly Province fixed his gaze on Fang Chen and urgently said, could it be that the Asura Holy Son's relentless harassment of you was all for the sake of? Fang Chen's voice grew as heavy as could be. Correct. He wasn't trying to obtain something from me. He wanted to put me in danger to lure away the Cloud Desolation ancient saint who guards the mainland. Only thus could he safely reach the mainland. Upon hearing this, the three sages' faces changed drastically in an instant. The ultimate destination of all the Asura Holy Son's scheming was actually to ascend onto the mainland. And what on the mainland was worth the Asura Holy Son's mad pursuit? Ordinary beings might not know, but wouldn't they, the sages, understand it well? It was the corpse of the primordial ancient saint stored on the 11th level of the underground world. And that realm, connecting artifact that linked the Hell realm and the Middle-earth realm. The Asura Holy Son's smile froze slightly. He narrowed his eyes and stared at Fang Chen, killing intent bursting from his gaze. Before, my desire to kill you was all an act. Now, I truly want to get rid of you. With just these scant clues, Fang Chen was able to see through his plan. If such a person became an enemy in the future, he would be a formidable foe indeed. Fortunately, his objective had already been achieved. The Asura Holy Son put his hands behind his back and said lightly, Fang Chen, in a way, I should thank you. Many years ago, I wanted to set foot on the mainland, but the Cloud Desolation ancient saint was stationed there, making me dare not approach even a single step. I didn't even dare to set foot in Taikang Major Province lightly, afraid that she might see through my clues. Fang Chen and the three sages were instantly enlightened. No wonder this Asura Holy Son, hailed as the sage of all 8 provinces, had never set foot in Taikang Major Province. It turned out he was actually afraid of the Cloud Desolation ancient saint. The Asura Holy Son raised a hand to massage his brow. In order to lure the Cloud Desolation ancient saint away, I racked my brains to the extreme. I had the Heavenly Net Sage devour the fate of taking Major Province, but she remained unmoved. I instigated the sages of Heavenly Province to explore mysterious ruins beyond the heavens and encounter danger, and still she was unmoved. I tore open the interspace world of the myriad demons Major Province, triggering catastrophic disasters, yet she remained unmoved. At times, I truly suspected that my existence had long been seen clearly by her, which was why she refused to fall for any ploy. I almost wanted to give up on the plan to ascend the mainland and directly return to the Hell Realm. At this point, the Asura Holy Son looked at Fang Chen and revealed a smile. However, I suddenly learned that when you were oppressed by that old thing compassionate heart in Heave, an Ly remnant city, the ancient saint, who never left the mainland, actually appeared for you, and she even reprimanded Sage Compassionate Heart on your behalf. Thus I knew that I still had a chance to go up to the mainland. Fang Chen's eyes suddenly narrowed. So the Heavenly Net Sage, absorbing fate to become a sage, also had this layer of purpose. And that boundless claw mark that tore the world barrier at the entrance to the underground world in Myriad Demon's Major Province, it was indeed the work of the Asura Holy Son. Its purpose, once again, was to lure away the Cloud Desolation ancient saint. Later, when he tried to capture him twice, it was all a deliberate creation of danger, intending to lure the Cloud Desolation ancient saint away from the mainland. After 2 failures, he used the followers he had accumulated over many years to set up the present chaotic situation. And after paying the heavy price of sacrificing a strike from the 9 Hells Asura Emperor, he successfully lured the Cloud Desolation ancient saint out. With the mainland unguarded, the Asura Holy Son could finally set foot on that land in peace. The Asura Holy Son grinned, his eyes full of smugness and even more, the pleasure of a century-long scheme finally succeeding, all but bursting to confide in someone. Do you know why I'm going to the underground world? Fang Chen instinctively thought of the primordial ancient saint and that attic-like realm artifact. But on second thought, neither of these 2 things were of direct use to the Asura Holy Son. He was now at the realm of Sage. What need did he have for the corpse of the primordial ancient saint? That realm artifact connecting the 2 realms also had no practical use. The only thing that could make the Asura Holy Son exert so much effort and determination to achieve was only one possibility, the qualification of Realm Lord. He still hadn't given up. He still wanted to seize the Middle-earth's Realm Lord qualification. But could the Realm Lord qualification be in the underground world? Last time he went, why did he find nothing at all? How could the Tongyuan Realm Lord and the other Shore Realm Lord also not have any awareness? Fang Chen shook his head and looked straight at the Asura Holy Son. I know what you want is the Middle-earth's Realm Lord qualification. But you've gone to such great lengths, aren't you afraid that that thing isn't in the underground world at all? The Asura Holy Son was astonished, and his gaze toward Fang Chen grew even colder. To even know about the Realm Lord qualification, you are indeed somewhat remarkable. Unfortunately, you only know one side, not the other. A primordial ancient saint once fell in your Middle-earth, but he didn't truly die. He will return in the near future under a different identity. Therefore, his Realm Lord qualification has always been on his corpse. Fang Chen's heart suddenly sank. The Realm Lord qualification was actually on the body of the primordial ancient saint. Then wasn't it about to fall into the Asura Holy Son's hands? This damn scoundrel had caused the deaths of so many people in Middle-earth, and now he even wanted to seize the Middle-earth's Realm Lord qualification. Utterly outrageous. His eyes darted, and with a half-truthful cold snort, he said, "Then you're too late." The Dark Asura clan of the Divine Realm once arrived at the 11th level of the underground world, with the remnant soul of the Tongyuan Realm Lord left in the Divine Realm. Also, the other Shore Realm Lord also came. If there really was a Realm Lord qualification, it would have fallen into their hands long ago. How could there be any left for you? The Asura Holy Son's smile instantly froze, and his pupils seemed to shake like an earthquake as he exclaimed, "What did you say?" The remnant souls and avatars of those 2 Realm Lords arrived. Was the primordial ancient saint's corpse snatched away by them? This sudden news instantly threw the Asura Saint Son into panic. Fang Chen said calmly, "It has already been taken." The Asura Saint Son drew a long, cold breath and asked through gritted teeth, "They only took the primordial ancient saint's remains, right?" Fang Chen's eyes secretly shifted, and he nodded. Yet a trace of joy suddenly surfaced between the Asura Saint Sun's brows. Then the divine tree behind the primordial ancient saint. They didn't take it. Divine tree. Fang Chen recalled the towering green tree. It must have been nourished by the lingering holy might of the primordial ancient saint. Right. Could this tree have some special feature? He tapped his chin. The tree is still there. Why? The Asura Saint Sun let out a long breath and chuckled. Then they didn't get anything from the tree, did they? Fang Chen was secretly surprised. What could there be on the tree? Wait. Fang Chen's heart pounded violently, his blood surging instantly, and his body trembled with uncontrollable excitement. When he was about to leave, a mysterious 9-colored leaf had fallen from the tree. He had tried to replicate it with the dog bowl, but found it simply impossible to copy. Aside from that, the leaf had no spiritual pressure or spiritual energy, only its color was exceptionally unique, so he casually tossed it into the heavenly thunderstone. This thing, could it be the Realm Lord qualification that the Asura Saint Sun had been painstakingly searching for? The Asura Saint Sun frowned and urged again, I'm asking you, did they get anything from the tree? Fang Chen came back to his senses and laughed. Why should I tell you? Just let you guess. The Asura Saint Sun's gaze instantly turned sharp as a blade, but then softened again as he said with a half-smile, if they truly snatched it, why would you hide it? Telling me to make me suffer would be exactly what you want, wouldn't it? You won't say, so there's only one answer. The Realm Lord qualification is still here. With that, he burst into loud laughter. That laughter was full of smug satisfaction. Ha ha ha. Thank you for telling me. Finally, once again, I solemnly express my gratitude. If not for you, I wouldn't have the chance to obtain the Realm Lord qualification that the Cloud Desolation ancient saint guarded for 1,000 years. When I achieve the position of Realm Lord in the future, I will certainly reward you handsomely. Farewell, I'm off to claim the Realm Lord qualification that my mother and I have plotted for 1,000 years. As the words fell, the Black Dragon Great Venerable's eyes ceased their struggle and reverted to the fierce, cold, and sinister look of the Black Dragon Great Venerable. Yet at this moment, he simply couldn't muster any ferocity. The terrifying auras of the three calamity, enduring sage, level experts converged and pressed down on him so heavily that his legs gave way and his whole body collapsed prone on the ground with a thunderous crash. The heavenly province Grand Libationer merely gave him a faint glance, then shifted his gaze to the 9 nether demon Venerable. Since he is a person from your myriad demon great continent, you handle him. The 9 nether demon Venerable's extremely effeminate gaze swept indifferently toward the Black Dragon, Great Venerable beside him. Just one glance terrified the Black Dragon, Great Venerable, so much that his gall and liver seemed to rupture, and his soul flew beyond the heavens. He knew better than anyone that for a single calamity, releasing Lotus Seed, he had twice torn open the interlayer world, unleashing hellish beings to invade the myriad demon Great Continent. What an act of clan betrayal that even 10,000 deaths could not atone for. Given the 9 nether demon Venerable's temperament, there was absolutely not a shred of possibility of tolerance. His legs went weak, his voice tinged with a sob, as he hurriedly pleaded, Demon Venerable, I beg you, let me atone for my crimes by going to the heavenly realm to perform meritorious deeds. If it really isn't possible, let me die in the heavenly realm, I'll be willing. At this moment, he only wanted to luckily escape from this colossal calamity before his eyes. However, the 9 nether demon Venerable was hardly a soft-hearted person, as he coldly spat out a sentence. Unnecessary, traitors are unworthy of my mercy. No sooner had his words fallen than his originally void gaze abruptly solidified into substance, like 2 divine spears piercing the void, about to kill the Black Dragon, Great Venus. Rabel on the spot in public. Senior, please spare his soul for use. At this critical life or death moment, a flash of brilliance flickered in Fang Chen's eyes, and he hurriedly called out to stop him. The 9 nether demon Venerable's peerlessly sharp gaze actually softened a little because of this. A muffled bang was heard as the Black Dragon Great Venerable's physical body exploded on the spot into a mass of crimson blood mist. Yet his fist-sized soul remained completely and scathed, merely held firmly in place by an invisible pressure, with even the slightest movement becoming a luxury. Fang Chen's heart leaped with joy, and he hurriedly cupped his fists in gratitude. Thank you, Senior. Could you hand over this traitor's soul for me to deal with? Seeing that the 9 nether demon Venerable was expressionless and noncommittal, Fang Chen immediately added, Senior, rest assured, I will never give him the slightest chance to possess another body and cultivate again. Hearing this, the 9 nether demon Venerable silently nodded. This scene fell into the eyes of the ancient Zen Buddha Venerable and the heavenly province Grand Libationer, and a ripple of surprise stirred in both their hearts. For one must know, the 9 Nether Demon Venerable had never harbored any goodwill toward the human race of the Central Plains. Were it not for the common enemies before them now, he would have absolutely no chance of standing shoulder to shoulder with the ancient Zen, Buddha Venerable, and the heavenly Provi, NC Grand Libationer. But who could have imagined that he would be so unusually accommodating toward Fang Chen? When asked to spare the soul, he spared it. When asked to hand over the person, he handed him over without a single word of objection. Fang Chen once again cupped his fists in thanks, then immediately grabbed the fist-sized soul figure of the Black Dragon Great Venerable and tightly clenched it in his palm. The Black Dragon Great Venerable, who once could crush him to death with a single thought, had now become a feeble soul in his grasp, at his mercy. Life and death now rested solely on Fang Chen's single thought. "Where is your throne treasury?" Fang Chen's gaze was like lightning as he scanned the pile of mangled flesh and blood fragments around him, but he found no trace of any spatial storage device. The soul figure of the Black Dragon Great Venerable trembled with frustration and roared venomously, "My people have all been controlled by the Asura Saint Son. How could I have... Why say over the items on me?" Everything was completely looted by that damnably hateful little demoness. Fang Chen's brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. "Does she know the incantation to open your treasury?" The Black Dragon Great Venerable roared like a madman. "If I, Black Dragon, must die, then I die. Don't think you can kill me and also use my legacy treasure. I'll never tell you, even in death." So even that demoness didn't know the incantation. In that case, things were easy. Fang Chen unhurriedly took out a piece of pitch black wood, his tone full of amusement. "Great Venerable, you still recognize this thing, right?" The Black Dragon Great Venerable only glanced at it, and his soul shuddered violently. His voice changed tone in fury. "You little brute, so it was you who stole my divine wood. And I wrongly accused the soul shadow earlier." Fang Chen's smile was teasing, his eyes full of mockery. "Have you forgotten what the most fundamental effect of this divine wood is?" Upon hearing this, the Black Dragon Great Venerable's soul stiffened abruptly, as if recalling something extremely terrifying, and he couldn't help but secretly swallow a non-existent gulp of saliva, his voice trembling. What are you going to do?" Fang Chen revealed an innocuous and harmless smile on his face. "I want to invite you, Great Venerable, to quietly sleep for a while." Before the words even left his mouth, the pitch-black divine wood had already carried blurry afterimages, lashing down fiercely, covering his head and face. His hand rose and the stick fell, so fast that only a series of afterimages could be seen. Each strike accurately lashed the Black Dragon Great Venerable's soul, scattering his already weak soul body in all directions. The Black Dragon Great Venerable only had time to let out a short, agonized scream before his vision went black, and he completely fainted. Seeing that the other party had completely lost consciousness, Fang Chen then took out the soul pagoda gifted by the heavenly artisan sage. After all, this was only a high-grade spirit tool, which might not be able to securely seal a soul of the Great Venerable level. Therefore, it was necessary to first make him willingly fall unconscious. Having dealt with the Black Dragon Great Venerable in a casual manner, Fang Chen then straightened his expression and said to the 3 powerhouses, 3 seniors, "Please follow E to the continent. With me leading the way, you will be safe from the continent's restrictions." In fact, Fang Chen had a faint suspicion in his heart that the continent's restrictions, with the Asura Saint Son's invasion, had likely already lifted on their own by now. Otherwise, would the sages of the Central Plains be forced to watch helplessly as the Asura Saint Son ran amok without being able to intervene? "Let's go." The Heavenly Province Grand Libationer dared not delay a single moment, and immediately intended to escort Fang Chen across the void, heading straight for the taking Great Continent. Wait! Right at this moment, a majestic aura belonging to a sage-level expert rose from illusion to reality in the distance, surging over rapidly. The newcomer was none other than the first-rank Pavilion Master of Fang Chen. In one hand, he still tightly gripped the shoulder of an 18-year-old girl. Astonishingly, it was Yu Mingzhu. Her lovely face was slightly pale, streaked with crisscrossing tear stains, a complete mess. As it turned out, just after the Fang Chen First Great Tower Master had rescued Yu Mingzhu, she sensed that Fang Chen had encountered a dire omen and desperately rushed over following the direction. "Are you all right?" Yu Mingzhu leaped over in a single bound, anxiously examining Fang Chen from head to toe with meticulous care. Only upon finding him completely unharmed did the heart that had been lodged in her throat finally settle down. Ever since learning that Fang Chen was fated to face a death tribulation, she had been constantly on edge, never at peace for a moment. Just now, upon sensing that Fang Chen was trapped in a place of great peril, she had feared he had already succumbed to the tribulation. Thank heavens he was still alive, safe and sound. Fang Chen felt a warmth in his heart. He raised his hand to gently wipe away the tear stains on her face and softly reassured her, "I've worried you. With so many senior masters protecting me, how could anything happen? First, go back to Tianju with Senior Wu Ming. I'll return shortly." Unexpectedly, Yu Mingju not only refused but instead tightly hugged Fang Chen's arm, declaring she would not let go no matter what. The sparkle of mischievous cleverness that should have filled her eyes was now completely replaced by deep apprehension and terror. "Wherever you go, I go." Yu Mingju's expression was unwaveringly stubborn. She truly never wanted to leave Fang Chen's side again, for fear that the next parting might become an eternal farewell for this life. Fang Chen sighed helplessly. Time was pressing, and he had no leisure to argue further, so he turned to the first great tower master and said, "Senior Wu Ming, I must trouble you to look after the people of Ang Grand Prefecture on my behalf. This junior will return soon." Fang Chen first great tower master glanced at the three mighty experts with heavens, banning cultivation at the second Calamity Sage realm, then said no more, turning into a streak of light and departing. At the same time, underground world, 10th level. King Asura was seated in lotus position before the crystal coffin of Empress Dugu, the putrid stench emanating from her body growing ever thicker and more pungent. Her eyes were tightly shut, head hanging low, like a withered wooden statue, quietly awaiting the arrival of her moment of mortal transcendence. Suddenly, she seemed to sense something, and slowly opened her murky eyes. In the next instant, her pupils suddenly contracted. Before Empress Dugu's coffin, she saw, at some unknown time, a refined middle-aged man with his hands clasped behind his back, silently floating in the air. No, that was definitely not a human. That was an exceedingly deeply hidden Asura from the Hell Realm. The Asura Saint Sun gazed deeply at the lifelike Empress Dugu within the coffin and spoke in a flat, emotionless tone. "So this is the queen who ruled the Asura realm with motherly grace 1,000 years ago." After a moment of shock, King Asura's gaze quickly returned to its former calm. Leaning on her cane, she tottered to her feet and said in a hoarse voice, "You are the child of Dongfang Canyu, aren't you? In the end, you still came." The Asura Saint Sun slowly turned around, looking down upon the utterly decayed King Asura with a curl of intrigue at the corner of his mouth. Truly the most enigmatic creative. An Asura bloodline Empress Dugu actually enabled a mere one, Crown Asura King's servant, to live beyond 1,000 long years. As it turned out, among the 9 great Asura clans of the Hell Realm, the last and most mysterious one was precisely the Creation Asura clan. No one could clearly explain the exact effects of their innate racial talent, because when the power of creation acted upon each individual, the forms it manifested were entirely different, yet without exception, they could all be called true creation's work. As a one, Crown Asura King, King Asura could never have lived past 1,000 years. Only those who reached the 5, Crown Asura King realm could barely brush the 800-year lifespan limit. Yet she, with nothing but the cultivation of a 1, Crown Asura King, had lived to this very day. The Asura Saint Sun's gaze deepened further as he glanced around with a faint, unreadable smile and asked, "Why would Empress Dugu leave behind a servant like you? What does she wish to guard here?" King Asura's eyes trembled violently. In her heart, she secretly rejoiced that she had already sent the young master out of this dead zone earlier. Otherwise, he would surely have fallen into the Asura Saint Sun's demonic clutches by now. She took a deep breath and said calmly, "You need not know, nor will you have the time to find out. If all goes as expected, the powerhouses of the Middle Continent will soon slaughter their way to your doorstep." The Asura Saint Sun's expression grew even more amused as he scrutinized her up and down. "Living deep in this underground world, you actually managed to guess I would come here." King Asura let out a frank, cold laugh. "When I learned that a world lord position had opened up in the Middle Continent, I completely understood Dongfeng Canyu's entire Nia, old scheme. His scheme was to send you to the Middle Continent and allow the bloodthirsty Asura clan to give birth to a second Supreme World Lord." She quietly felt the Asura Saint Sun's pressure, which had far from reached the 3rd Calamity Sage realm, and continued with a sneer, "What a pity. Dongfang Canyu staked everything, only to fail at the final step. Not only did the Middle Continent win that great war, but the casualties were far lower than expected, leaving you with no chance to use the soul, pacifying Hell's suppression script to achieve the 3rd Calamity Sage realm, much less set your sights on the Middle Continent's sacred realm." Instead, the Asura Saint Sun's smile turned profoundly deep. He asked softly, "What if I personally opened the passage between the 2 realms?" King Asura's expression changed drastically as she sternly urged, "I advise you to cease such madness. At this moment, the Hell Realm is fighting with all its might against the invasion of the ancient giants, and the outcome is still unknown. If you rashly open the two realms now, should the human race exploit the weakness to invade, the Hell Realm will surely repeat the tragedy of its expedition against the Heavenly Realm 10,000 years ago. By then, the Hell Realm will be plunged into utter devastation, and every clan will be annihilated. Unexpectedly, the Asura Saint Sun's smile not only did not fade, but grew even more radiant. He tilted his head slightly, his tone laced with a chilling mockery that sent shivers down one's spine. Wouldn't that be perfect? If not for a few more deaths among the beings of both realms, how could I ever deliver the dead, using those countless soul energies to swiftly step into the third Calamity Sage realm? King Ayu Asura drew a sharp breath. In that instant, cold sweat nearly soaked through her back. This Asura Saint Son had actually counted his own people in his schemes as well. Her eyes widened abruptly as she shouted urgently, "You have the blood of the Hell Realm flowing through your veins. How can you harm your own kin?" The Asura Saint Son's smile slowly faded, and wisps of violent black energy surged and roiled in the depths of his eyes. "Kin." He repeated through gritted teeth, his voice as cold as if dredged from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. "When my mother was expelled from the Hell Realm all those years ago, did any of you ever treat her as kin?" King Ayu Asura was instantly speechless. She opened her mouth, but only a deep, low sigh escaped from her throat. "It seems your mother told you everything." She paused, and her tone suddenly turned sharper. "But she probably didn't tell you that the reason for her expulsion was her brazen attempt to welcome back the former traitors, Dark Asura clan lineage, into the Hell Realm. Your mother and her clansmen were already among the few Dark Asura clan remnants lingering in the Hell Realm. Even after the expeditionary army of the Dark Asura clan committed heinous betrayal in the Heavenly Realm, the Hell Realm still did not wipe out your mother and the remaining clansmen. Yet your mother and her clansmen, far from showing gratitude, instead secretly released the hellish beasts and unleashed the heaven, connecting Black Pillar from the depths of Heavenly Prison, attempting to forcibly draw the entire Dark Asura clan out of the world. It was precisely because of this that your mother and her clansmen were expelled. The Asura Saint Sun's eyes flared with murderous intent, and a frigid arc tugged at the corner of his mouth. Expelled? Then why did they all die here? King Ayu Asura showed disdain and snorted coldly. That was your mother's own insolence. Unwilling to leave the Hell Realm just like that, she went so far as to steal the Yin Essence Tiger Tally and brazenly launch a rebellion. At that time, the Hell Realm had just repelled the invasion of the ancient giants, and was at its most critically weakened stage. Your mother seized the chance to throw the entire Hell Realm into chaos, causing countless casualties, and it was this that drew a united crusade from all the realm's powerhouses. My master, Empress Dugu, was one of those crusaders back then. She pursued the rebel army all the way from the Hell Realm into the Middle Continent, until they were finally suppressed by the ancient saint of Yunhuang, and everyone died within this Pavilion Realm artifact that connects the two worlds. Recalling the cataclysmic upheaval of those years, Ayu Asura King is still haunted by lingering fear, her voice even quivering involuntarily. In that rebellion, thousands of Asura Kings fell, and the corpses of ordinary Asura clansmen piled up like mountains beyond count. Apart from that, Dongfeng Kanyu, that madwoman, seized the moment when the Dream Demon Zilio clan's realm lord fell to surge in, forcibly seizing their lineage's realm artifact the Execution Judgment Brush. With the sinister might of the Execution Judgment Brush, she then gravely wounded the Fortune Asura clan and seized the Hell Soul Bell. Precisely because the Fortune Asura clan had lost two treasured artifacts in quick succession, Dugu, Empress of that clan, had no choice but to venture into the Middle Earth in pursuit. Until in the end, everyone was trapped and doomed by the Yunhuang Ancient Saint within this Pavilion Realm artifact. Dugu Empress and the remnant forces of Dongfeng Kanyu waged a brutal fight to the death within the Pavilion Realm artifact. In the end, the curtain fell with Dongfeng Kanyu defeated and slain in battle, and Dugu Empress succumbing to her grave wounds. The two realm artifacts that Dongfeng Kanyu had stolen, along with the Yin Marrow Tiger Talisman, were all lost in that earth-shattering battle, vanishing without a trace. The grievous loss of elites and realm artifacts left the Hell Realm, which had once been ever victorious against the ancient giants, now struggling immensely, unable to completely repel those ancient giants even to this day. And the instigator of all this, all thanks to that madwoman Dongfeng Kanyu. They say the Middle Earth has its 10 evils, but the Dark Asura clan of the Hell Realm is no less disastrous by any measure. 10,000 years ago, they wrought disaster upon the Hell Realm once, and 1,000 years ago, they did so again. Ayu Asura King grew angrier with every word, the hatred in her chest nearly erupting. She said frigidly, "Your mother died here, and she brought it entirely upon herself." Since you carry the bloodline of the bloodthirsty Asura clan and did not inherit the evil blood of your mother's dark Asura clan lineage, you should completely sever ties with her and obediently return to the Hell Realm. Do not repeat your mother's mistakes. The Asura Saint's son, however, looked as though he had heard the most absurd joke. A sinister, cold laugh rasped from his throat. The killing intent in his eyes didn't fade. Instead, it thickened until it seemed almost tangible. You killed my mother, wiped out her entire clan, and now you want me to embrace the Hell Realm. Whether it's the Hell Realm or the Middle-earth Realm, go bite each other like dogs all you want. I will find a way to obtain the health-suppressing, soul-pacifying scripture, and then I will personally liberate the souls of both realms. I'll use your countless corpses to pave my heaven, reaching path to ascend the Realm Lord's throne. Now, it's time to take the Realm Lord qualifications that are rightfully mine. The instant his words fell, a crushing, suffocating pressure erupted from afar, immediately followed by a terrifying boom that seemed to rip the entire spatial barrier apart, blasting across the 10th layer. Ayu Asura King's face twisted in horror. You activated the Immaculate Altar, she cried out. That altar was meant to be activated only by the Asura Emperor, yet now the Asura Saint's son just happened to meet the requirements to trigger it. As soon as her words finished, the entire ground shuddered violently, and a realm artifact's power, capable of making all living creatures grovel, erupted with overwhelming fury. Looking from a distance, a red beam of light 100 zhang thick shot up from the direction of the Immaculate Altar, crashing brutally into the world barrier between the NTH and 9th layers. A heaven-shaking, earth-shattering crack rang out as that seemingly indestructible barrier was blasted into pieces by raw power. The red beam, its momentum unimpeded, shot forward like a hot heaven, reaching giant spear, piercing through layer after layer of the world barriers that separated the DDLE Earth's surface. Simultaneously, the 11th layer began to tremble violently, rapidly crumbling and merging entirely with the Hell Realm. The Hell Realm and the Middle-earth Realm were about to be forcibly linked. There was no stopping it. In that moment of dire peril, a golden Buddhist halo condensed from prayer beads forcibly pressed against the towering blood beam, descending upon the 10th layer. The Buddha light dispersed, then recondensed into an archaic string of prayer beads, gently settling around the neck of the ancient Zen Buddha Venerable. The 9 Nether Demon Venerable and the Tianju Grand Libationer also manifested their forms. Fang Chen, tightly holding Yu Mingju's hand, also swiftly revealed his form. He stared off into the distance at the horrific blood beam near the altar, his expression darkening to its utmost. Asura, Saint Son. What he feared most had come to pass after all. The Asura Saint Son would not only snatch the Realm Lord qualifications, but also unleash a cataclysm upon the Middle-earth, the merging of the two realms. The Asura Saint Son slowly backed toward the abyss, a chilling smile on his face that made one's teeth ache. You ought to thank me. Right now, the Hell Realm is exhausted from fending off the ancient giants. You, from Middle-earth, could simply strike from the rear and crush them. Fang Chen remained composed and unshaken, without the slightest trace of temptation in his eyes. The Hell Realm was saturated with yin energy, barren and lifeless. It held almost no value for the beings of Middle-earth. What point is there in conquering it? Moreover, was the Hell Realm really that easy to attack? Even if the Hell Realm were indeed caught between the ancient giants and Middle-earth, with no retreat, they would be forced to fight with desperate, suicidal ferocity. When that time comes, Middle-earth's pitifully few troops would only be wiped out, and in the end, the ancient giants would reap all the benefits for nothing. And once the ancient giants entrenched themselves in the Hell Realm, their next move would be to pour through this Pavilion Realm artifact and invade the Middle-earth. By then, what could Middle-earth possibly use to stop them? But could Middle-earth simply stand by and do nothing? Obviously not. Because whether the Hell Realm or the ancient giants ultimately emerge victorious, the next target will inevitably be the Middle-earth. The opening of this Pavilion Realm artifact spelled an insoluble, extinction-level catastrophe for the Middle-earth. Unless, that is, this Pavilion Realm artifact were completely uprooted. Enjoy this grand gift I've sent you. The Asura Saint Son's laughter grew increasingly wild. Farewell, I'm going to claim my qualifications as Realm Lord. Once more, my thanks to you, Fang Chen. You brought about this twist of destiny for me, ha ha ha. His form faded from solid to ethereal, and in the blink of an eye, he slipped away into the 11th layer. The ancient Zen Buddha Venerable and the others immediately acted, teleporting Fang Chen and Yu Mingju to the 11th layer as well. The land of the 11th layer now resembled a sea of molten iron, glowing crimson. Boundless lava churned fiercely, and piece after piece of the continent shattered and fell, revealing below a dark world saturated with a bloody haze. The 9 nether demon venerable's expression flickered slightly. Not good. The 11th layer is about to link up with the Hell Realm. We can't linger here, or we'll break directly into the Hell Realm's core territory. If we attract powerful Hell Realm experts, we'll be in serious trouble. The ancient Zen Buddha Venerable said in a grave tone. Stop him from getting the Realm Lord qualifications, then immediately retreat. Fang Chen's eyes flickered. The Realm Lord qualifications were already on his person, so he was not worried about that. What truly weighed on his mind was the body of the primordial ancient saint. If the Asura Saint Son failed to obtain the qualifications, he would certainly take the primordial ancient saint's body with him. But when they hurried to the towering tree, Fang Chen was instantly frozen in shock. The once verdant grassland had, unbeknownst to them, completely withered into a desolate, deathly wilderness, and the colossal tree had shed all its leaves, now a stark, lifeless husk. What tightened Fang Chen's heart further was that the primordial ancient saint's remains had disappeared without a trace. Earlier, he had merely been deceiving the Asura Saint Son, falsely claiming that the primordial ancient saint's body had already been taken by 2 Hell Realm lords. But now, revisiting this place, the remains had indeed vanished. After a brief contemplation, it struck him. It was the Yunhuang ancient saint. She had taken the remains away beforehand. The Asura Saint Son's scheme to distract her, she had probably seen through all along. Thus, before departing, she had taken the most valuable treasure of the 11th layer, the primordial ancient saint's body. But immediately, an even larger question arose in Fang Chen's mind, had she not considered that the Asura Saint Son would connect the 2 realms. No, the primordial ancient saint's remains had been used to suppress this pavilion realm, artifact's heaven, defying power to traverse all worlds. Having removed the body, how could she not have accounted for this? But why did she take no precautions at all, simply letting the Asura Saint Son succeed? There was only one answer. The linking of the 2 realms was precisely the outcome she desired. Fang Chen's heart shook fiercely, as if a tempestuous sea had been stirred up within him. What exactly was this Yunhuang ancient saint plotting? The joining of the 2 realms, could it actually benefit the Middle Earth? While he was lost in thought, a thunderous crack suddenly boomed, like a startling thunderclap exploding through the mountains. It turned out that the Asura Saint Son had shattered the dead tree beside him with one palm strike. His face, which should have been alight with triumph at his scheme's success, was now so dark it could drip water, as he howled like a madman. The Realm Lord qualification. Where is my Realm Lord qualification? The moment he saw the withered tree, he understood that the Realm Lord qualification he had dreamed of was already gone. If it were still there, this tree would never have withered. He had spent hundreds of years climbing step by step to become a sage of the central continent. And without hesitation, he expended all the faithful believers he had accumulated over years, even using a precious strike from a 9 Hells Asura Emperor, finally forcing the Ansai and sage of Yunhuang to leave the continent. But after all his scheming and plotting, in the end, it all came to naught. Aside from his cultivation, he gained nothing at all. How could a schemer who always prided himself on controlling everything from behind the scenes accept such a crushing and colossal defeat? The Grand Libationer of Tianju snorted angrily, his voice like a great bell. Wicked fiend, you dare stir up trouble in our central continent and even try to seize our Realm Lord qualification. He decisively activated the Law of Wrath, intending to kill him before the 11th layer completely collapsed and eradicate this future threat once and for all. However, as soon as that law force radiated out, a heavy, angry snort came from the Hell Realm below. Since when does the Hell Realm tolerate the people of the central continent coming here to act wantonly? An aura of unbridled ferocity, no less than that of the Grand Libationer of Tianju, surged up from the depths of the Hell Realm. Immediately after, a skysh, routing, blood-red demonic claw tore through the barrier between the 2 realms, erupting fiercely from the magma, churning earth below. This demonic claw was identical to the one used by the Asura Saint Son when he chased down Fang Chen and his companions in the void. Then, another equally massive demonic claw stabbed into the 11th layer. The 2 claws braced against the shattered ground, and a terrifyingly enormous head, so dreadful it robbed one of breath, slowly emerged from the Hell Realm. The head had a goat-like face, a pair of sharp, curved horns crowning its skull, yet its facial features were humanoid. A pair of red eyes radiated a ferocious gleam, no less savage than that of an ancient giant. His body then tore through the world barrier, drilling out of the magma earth with a thunderous roar. A horrific demonic body, 100 jang tall, with thick magma churning within and dense black smoke billowing around it, thus emerged before everyone. It was actually an Asura Emperor, even more towering and massive than the 6 Sun Giant Emperor. With a casual wave of his colossal demonic claw, he shattered the Grand Libationer's law force in midair. In those huge blood, red eyes danced undisguised contempt, the central continent's to calamity realm, nothing special. Everyone looked instinctively at his head, and their faces all drastically changed, expressions turning grave. They saw 7 vortexes of different colors swirling above his head like a nightmare. This meant his strength had reached the terrifying level of a 7 Hell Asura Emperor. The ancient Zen Buddha Lord's gaze flickered rapidly, and he slowly uttered a single word: retreat. If the 3 of them joined forces, they would not fear this 7 Hell Asura Emperor before them, and it would even be possible to jointly kill him. But the problem was, the Hell Realm might not have sent only this one high-level Asura Emperor. Fang Chen also glanced at the Asura Saint Son with deep regret. If this venomously cunning snake is not eliminated, the central continent will likely never know a day of peace. Alas, they absolutely could not continue to risk staying here just for one Asura Saint Son. As the 11th layer kept collapsing, this place was on the verge of merging completely with the Hell Realm. At that time, their situation would become even more perilous. The Grand Libationer of Tianju grabbed Fang Chen, while Fang Chen held tightly onto Yu Mingzhu. The group immediately activated their divine abilities, their forms turning from solid to ethereal, about to disperse. But at that very moment, an aura 1,000 times more terrifying than even the 7 Hell Asura Emperors suddenly burst forth from behind them. A massive silver horn brutally pierced the earth, and 100 janked, all monstrous body broke through the ground, radiating a sky, engulfing ferocious aura. Its head was tiger-shaped, its gigantic eyes bursting with man, devouring ferocity. And above its head, a full 8 vortexes swirled. This was an 8 Hell Asura Emperor. However, this was not the end. Rending sounds erupted from all corners of the magma earth, as one Asura Emperor after another, each exuding a terrifying aura, drilled out from underground. In just a few breaths, 5 more Asura Emperors appeared. The weakest was at 1 Hell Cultivation, the strongest had reached 6 hells. In total, 7 gigantic Asura Emperors, from front to back, formed an encirclement, trapping them firmly in the center and completely cutting off their escape. And as the 11th layer continued to crumble, this place could merge with the Hell Realm at any moment. When that happened, even more Asura Emperors would flood in like a tide. The tiger-headed 8 Hell Asura Emperor crossed his arms over his chest, his 2 enormous eyes, like blood, red moons, staring down at them as he said coldly, "You came to stir up trouble in our Hell Realm. You can forget about going back." The 9 Nether Demon Lord and the ancient Zen Buddha Lord instantly became extremely solemn. If a real fight broke out, they would be at a great disadvantage. Once reinforcements from the Hell Realm arrived, it was very possible that all of them would be forced to stay here. The ancient Zen Buddha Lord pressed his palms together and declared in a clear voice, "This humble monk came to protect the primordial ancient sage and is unwilling to create unnecessary slaughter. But if you insist on battle, then this humble monk will have no choice but to accompany you to the end." He slowly took off the Buddha's prayer beads hanging from his neck, and behind him in the void, a magnificent and boundless temple gradually manifested, with countless Buddha statues flickering in and out of view, bathed in radiant Buddha light. The gazes of the several Hell Realm Asura Emperors swept over the 3, their eyes involuntarily carrying traces of wariness. Especially when they swept over the ancient Zen Buddha Lord, that wariness deepened. If they truly started fighting, they might not come out well. But at this tense moment, a sharp gleam flashed in the Asura Saint Son's eyes, and he shouted, "Don't let them go." Especially that human named Fang Chen. He has a war exemption steel.
Him?
Upon hearing this, the Asura Emperor's eyes all burst with intimidating light. The 8 Hell Asura Emperor glared at Fang Chen with an angry laugh, his voice causing the earth to tremble. "Good. So you're that little human who summoned our Hell Realm Lord's avatar, not only refused to offer sacrifices, but even turned around and swindled a fortune." The expressions of the ancient Zen Buddha Lord, 9 Nether Demon Lord, and Grand Libationer of Tianju instantly froze for a moment. They all looked at Fang Chen, their eyes full of shock. The Hell Realm Lord had actually been swindled by Fang Chen. The ancient Zen Buddha Lord suddenly felt completely at ease about the knot in his heart over Senior, Please wait. If even a realm lord could be taken advantage of by him, then what was so strange about a Buddha lord like himself being swindled once by Fang Chen? Facing the three sages' astonished gazes, Fang Chen, without blushing or skipping a beat, said seriously, "Seniors, please don't listen to his nonsense. There is absolutely no such thing." Doom! The 7 Asura Emperor stomped his foot fiercely, collapsing a large area of ground, his goat-like face contorted with fury as he roared. "You still dare to quibble? Our Lord of the Other Shore cursed you throughout the entire Hell Realm for 3 whole days and nights." The entire Hell Realm? Could it have been like when the ancient sage of Yunhuang announced his divinity transformation, broadcasting to every corner of the central continent? And it was a rolling announcement across the whole Hell Realm for 3 days. Fang Chen's face instantly turned green with fury as he fumed. "That damn woman, didn't I just take a strand of her karma and a piece of merit, divine steel? At worst, add a realm-breaking artifact. Did she really have to curse me in front of the entire Hell Realm like that? This is simply going too far." If he had known she would so wantonly ruin his reputation, Fang Chen would never have returned that realm artifact to her no matter what. If he could make it back alive this time, he would definitely use that dog bowl to get the life-death book back. The 9 Nether Demon Lord and the other 2 turned to stone again. What the hell? He even swindled her realm artifact away. Is this really something a divinity transformation cultivator could pull off? HMPH, the tiger-headed 8 Asura Emperor laughed in extreme anger. "You human, you dare to say that the Lord of the Other Shore went too far? Fine, since you've walked right into the trap, don't think about leaving. Hand over the war exemption steel, obediently surrender, and come back to the Hell Realm with us, and we will let the others go free." The 9 Nether Demon Lord and the others' faces stiffened. Then they simultaneously moved to shield Fang Chen behind them. Yu Mingju also hastily activated the Heavenly Sun's Kai observation art, her pair of 9 colored pupils instantly peering at the world's fate. Upon seeing this, her anxious heart actually settled down. Although the current situation was extremely critical, there was no omen of extremely low fortune signaling great calamity. As expected, she had barely settled her heart when, from above the crowd, the auras of several human sages shimmered into being in quick succession. One of them was a Taoist holding a horsetail whisk, with the air of an immortal and the bones of the Tao, who was none other than the Grand Libationer of Taikang Great Prefecture. Beside him were the Grand Libationers of the other 7 prefectures. They materialized from nothingness, appearing out of thin air beside the Grand Libationer of Heaven Prefecture. The 9 Grand Libationers stood in a row, radiating 9 distinct yet intrinsically linked marvelous rhythms. Seeing their arrival, the 9 Netherworld Demon Venerable and Ancient Zen Buddha Venerable couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. With the Grand Libationers here, there was nothing to fear. Previously, when 8 Grand Libationers joined forces, they had fought the 9 Suns Giant Emperor of the Heavenly Realm to a standstill. Now, all 9 Grand Libationers were assembled, and each had received meritorious commendations from the Sage Merit Divine Steel, their strength surpassing even their former selves. United, as long as no sage intervened, they would have few rivals. Indeed, their appearance made the 7 Asura Emperors feel as if facing a formidable foe, and they warily gathered around the 8 Hells Asura King. The Grand Libationer of Taking Great Prefecture gently flicked his horsetail whisk and said calmly, "You cannot afford to set your sights on the true steel. If you truly intend to take it by force, then you'd best consider carefully whether our ancient sage will break the restriction of sages not intervening." Upon hearing this, the 8 Hells Asura Emperor's gaze instantly sank, heavy and foreboding. Fang Chen's pupils contracted slightly. He could not doubt a single word of it. He knew well that the true steel possessed influence capable of overturning the fate of an entire world. It was a height that even the most supreme realm artifacts could not reach. Such a divine artifact indeed warranted an ancient sage personally stepping forth to protect it. A trace of regret unavoidably flickered through his heart. It was a pity that the first to arrive were these Grand Libationers. Otherwise, when the 11th layer fully collapsed and transformed into territory of the Hell Realm, even if an ancient sage intervened, it would likely be too late. For every move made by a Central Earth ancient sage would inevitably provoke a countermove from a Hell Realm Lord. This was precisely why he had not initially seized the true steel, but instead patiently engaged him in conversation. He had actually been stalling for time. Alas, the first to descend were the 9 Grand Libationers. The terrifying power of their combined strength was far beyond what his group could withstand, and the golden opportunity had already slipped away. The 8 Hells Asura Emperor's gaze was like lightning as he scanned the surroundings and let out a heavy, cold snort. He shouted with stern voice and fierce expression, "Humans, you dare to open a passage between realms. Do you intend to actively provoke a war?" For 10,000 years, the Hell Realm had never ceased wanting to open this passage, except at this very moment. Simply because they were currently locked in bloody battle with the ancient giants, and utterly lacked the capacity to fight on 2 fronts. The Grand Libationer of taking Great Prefecture, his expression indifferent and tone steady, retorted, "Is it not true that only your Asura Emperors can activate that altar?" At these words, the figures of the several Asura Emperors stiffened abruptly. They turned their heads in unison, casting their gazes upon that Asura Holy Son who looked like a human, suspicion flickering in their eyes. Cornered and left with no choice, the Asura Holy Son had to reveal his true form. Amidst a nauseating cacophony of crunching bones, his stature suddenly doubled that of an ordinary man, and a ferocious, blood-red Asura stood starkly before everyone. A demon emperor of the bloodthirsty Asura clan. The 8 Hells Asura Emperor's face showed surprise as he asked in a deep voice, "When did the bloodthirsty Asura bloodline see someone like you? And why have you appeared in the central Earth realm?" In the presence of such a high-ranking Asura Emperor of the Hell Realm, the Asura Holy Son dared not show the slightest insolence. He hastily cupped his fists and bowed, explaining with utmost deference, "This junior is a member of the Asura clan who was accidentally lost in the Central Earth realm. Fearing slaughter at the hands of Central Earth cultivators, I was forced to disguise myself as one of them. Currently, I am being hunted by them without cease, and had no choice but to forcibly open the passage in a desperate bid to escape back to the Hell Realm in one breath." By this point, his tone carried a hint of having survived a calamity. "If not for encountering you seniors today and receiving your help, I would have long since been separated from my head." The goat-faced 7 Hells Asura Emperor nodded slightly upon hearing this, speaking in a deep voice. He was indeed being hunted. Had I not blocked that attack for him earlier, he would have already died at the hands of that 2 Calamities realm Grand Libationer. An accident. A glint of light flashed and vanished in the 8 Hells Asura Emperor's eyes. His doubts were not dispelled. Yet, since they were of the same race, there was absolutely no reason not to protect him. He coldly swept his gaze over the Central Earth crowd and announced in a forceful tone, "Since it was an accidental breach, this matter ends here. This place will soon merge into the Hell Realm. To avoid unnecessary misunderstandings, all of you withdraw at once." The sages' hearts tightened, and their gazes turned one after another toward the Grand Libationer of taking Great Prefecture, awaiting his final decision. Unexpectedly, the Grand Libationer slowly turned his head and rested his gaze upon Fang Chen. To everyone's surprise, he opened his mouth and asked, "What do you have to say?" The 9 Netherworld Demon Venerable frowned slightly. After a brief contemplation, he instantly grasped the crux of the matter. This was no longer a trivial matter of whether to retreat or not, but a matter of life and death concerning the future of both realms. Do not be fooled by how lightly the 8 Hells Asura Emperor glossed over it, merely dismissing it as a misunderstanding. That was because they currently could not spare the resources needing to focus on dealing with the ancient giants. Once the dust of that great war settled, they would surely turn their spears and march their armies straight into Central Earth. At that time, Central Earth would be left with only 2 choices. Either take the initiative to attack, or passively await invasion. It was precisely for this reason that the Grand Libationer could not make up his mind. As for why he sought Fang Chen's opinion, that was also easy to understand. Fang Chen was the one among them closest to the ancient sages. His opinion might best align with the will of the ancient sages. In an instant, the gazes of the many Grand Libationers and sages converged uniformly on Fang Chen, leaving him speechless in his heart. Such an earth-shaking matter was actually to be decided by a junior like him. But on second thought, the ancient sage's intention was actually crystal clear. Since she had tacitly permitted the Asura Holy Son to open the passage between realms, the implication was already self-evident. That was, to proactively march against the Hell Realm. Only, he could not yet fathom what the ancient sage's ultimate goal was in spurring this war. To so unsparingly expend Central Earth's already meager combat strength, the benefits she sought must be unimaginably colossal. Fang Chen drew a deep breath, his gaze gradually sharpening and firming. He declared loudly, "Grand Libationer, since these Asura Emperors dared to come, then let's simply not let them return, lest they become a hidden peril in the great war to come." At these words, the Grand Libationer and the several sages all changed color. Could this really mean advocating for Central Earth to proactively invade? For 10,000 years, Central Earth had always passively defended against enemy attacks. Proactively invading another realm was unprecedented, the first time ever. An indescribable discomfort quietly sprouted in the depths of their hearts. Central Earth and the Hell Realm had lived in peace for 10,000 years, and to strike now, while they were suffering a calamity from the ancient giants, carried a tinge of unjust action. Yet Fang Chen's eyes remained firm as iron, even revealing a trace of almost ruthless coldness. He said in a deep voice, "Seniors, there is no need for any psychological burden. Do not forget where you are standing at this very moment. This realm artifact of the Hell Realm, why is it here? Do you seniors know its origins?" Everyone was taken aback. A look of sudden understanding appeared in the eyes of several Grand Libationers, while the 9 Netherworld Demon Venerable and the ancient Zen Buddha Venerable, these two newcomers, who had only become sages within the last millennium, remained ignorant of it. Fang Chen explained, this realm artifact was left by a realm lord of the Hell Realm 10,000 years ago as an advance base for future invasion, who personally punched through the barrier between realms in order to seize our Central Earth. It was only due to certain reasons that the invasion plan was shelved. For an entire 10,000 years, that realm lord has never retrieved it, showing that the Hell Realm's heart to destroy Central Earth remains undying to this day. Having learned the bloody secret behind this Pavilion Realm artifact, the 9 Netherworld Demon Venerables' eyes slowly narrowed, a chill, killing intent spreading in their depths. He spoke in a low and icy voice. "I had wondered where this Pavilion world came from, so it was the wolfish ambition of the Hell Realm. In that case, they are not being wronged." The ancient Zen Buddha Venerable pressed his palms together and intoned a Buddhist chant, his tone compassionate yet resolute. This humble monk agrees with Patron Fang's opinion. When a wolf desires to devour a man, and the man rises to strike it, can this not be considered a righteous act? The Grand Libationer of Taking Great Prefecture gently stroked his beard and added, not only that, 10,000 years ago, the Hell Realm's expedition into the Celestial Realm ended dead in failure, their vitality severely damaged, and they were in turn invaded by foreign realms. They offered to cede a piece of Hell Realm territory in exchange for the help of several ancient saints who were then wandering the void. Later, the ancient saints risked their lives, lifted the restriction of no saint shall emerge, and successfully repelled the foreign invaders, earning that territory through their deeds. Yet no one expected that once the Middle Continent gradually stabilized, the Hell Realm would openly renege on the deal and attempt to forcibly reclaim the land. For certain other reasons, the matter was left unresolved. Hearing this history, Fang Chen's mind filled with sudden understanding. So this was the true origin of the Middle Continent. It was said that the Middle Continent had been stitched together from pieces of land seized by the ancient saints from both the Celestial Realm and the Hell Realm. But now it was clear, it was never a plunder. How could a Middle Continent far weaker than either realm openly dig out a chunk of land from the two mighty realms and carry it away? The only possibility was that the 4 saints of the Middle Continent had once struck deals with both the Hell Realm and the Celestial Realm, and only with their consent could they successfully excavate that land. It was only later that the Hell Realm broke their promise. The 4 saints of the Middle Continent, in an era of no saint shall emerge, had taken immense risks to resolve a crisis that threatened to annihilate the Hell Realm, only to be repaid with faithless betrayal. Worse still, for 10,000 years they have never given up, always poised to strike again. Fang Chen's gaze turned utterly cold, as if frozen into ice for 10,000 years. He declared resolutely, in that case, we have even less to hesitate about. Grand Libationer, honored seniors, prepare for war with the Hell Realm. If they truly wish to avoid renewed conflict, then before we formally invade the Hell Realm, they can withdraw this Pavilion World artifact. If they stubbornly refuse to withdraw it, then their ambitions are self-evident. Mobilizing the entire military might of the Middle Continent to gather here would take time, and that time was sufficient for the Hell Realm to make its final choice. Whether they wanted peace or war, the choice was entirely theirs. With these words, the last heavy stone in everyone's hearts fell to the ground. They were burdened no longer. War or not now rested solely on the attitude of the Hell Realm. The 8 Hell's Asura Emperor's face darkened, and he roared with fury. You of the Middle Continent are far too arrogant. Whoever dares set foot in the Hell Realm shall be slain without mercy. Fang Chen's eyes flashed with icy light as he sneered in retort. You'd better start worrying about your own skins first. Before his words faded, the 9 Grand Libationers exploded with terrifying, oppressive auras. The 9, Nether Fiend Venerable, and the ancient Zen Buddha Venerable also struck at once with ferocious determination. The 8 Hell's Asura Emperor's expression instantly turned extremely grim. He growled, "The Dark Star, Asura Emperor, and I will hold the rear. The rest of you withdraw back into the Hell Realm at once." The 7 Hell's Asura Emperor strode forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with him, and shielded the other 5 Asura Emperors firmly behind them. Before they could even react, the Asura Holy Son had already ripped open the earth beneath his feet and leaped down without the slightest hesitation. Before he departed, he turned his head and cast a long, meaningful look at Fang Chen. How could the Grand Libationer and the others allow them to leave at their leisure? They were about to unleash their divine arts to detain all these Asura Emperors, weakening the resistance for the upcoming Great War. However, at this moment of extreme peril, the ground beneath everyone's feet soundlessly collapsed into a yawning pit, 1,000 miles wide and immeasurably deep. Then 1,000 jang-tall, pitch-black humanoid projection tore through layers of space from the depths of the Hell Realm and descended upon the 11th layer with overwhelming force. Even though it was merely an illusory shadow, the pressure it emitted still made every sage present feel their hearts pound and their breath grow short. The Hell Realm's Realm Lord had acted. That 1,000 jang projection had a graceful figure, a delicate, enchanting flower pinned in her hair. This image, who else could it be but the other shore Realm Lord? Yet her voice had lost its usual languor. In its place surged supreme authority and seething fury. She rebuked in a rage, "Invade the Hell Realm, Fang Chen, you have colossal gall." Fang Chen's mouth twitched violently, and he swore under his breath, again, this persistent, haunting bitch. But he was in no mood for jokes now. The pressure radiating from that Realm Lord's projection was not to be trifled with. Fortunately, a multicolored auspicious cloud had silently materialized above Fang Chen's head. A graceful, extraordinary figure was faintly visible within the mist, and then a voice, as pleasant as the tinkling of silver bells, drifted leisurely down from the cloud. The Cloud Wasteland Ancient Saint spoke calmly. "Has the Hell Realm not long desired a battle with the Middle Continent? This saint will grant your wish." The 1,000 jang projection suddenly shook violently, and a trace of uncontrollable fear crept into that authoritative voice. The other shore Realm Lord cried out involuntarily, "Cloud Wasteland Ancient Saint, you have come." The 9 Nether Fiend Venerable's eyes were brimming with awe. In his lifetime, he was actually witnessing the Cloud Wasteland Ancient Saint's appearance for a second time. A thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Wait, could she be here for Fang Chen once again? The Cloud Wasteland Ancient Saint had not come a moment earlier or later, but descended precisely at the instant the other shore Realm Lord scolded Fang Chen. If anyone called that a coincidence, he would never believe it. The 9 Nether Fiend Venerable studied Fang Chen with a bizarre expression. Could this brat really have some deep connection with the Cloud Wasteland Ancient Saint? Why else would the Ancient Saint shield him at every turn? The other shore Realm Lord also seemed to realize something. She glanced down at Fang Chen, a profound suspicion flashing in her eyes. The Cloud Wasteland Ancient Saint was actually standing up for Fang Chen. And recalling how the last time Fang Chen had summoned her avatar, the Cloud Wasteland Ancient Saint had even helped Fang Chen fleece her, her conviction deepened. Yet what could a mere junior like Fang Chen possess that would earn him such favor from the Cloud Wasteland Ancient Saint? She withdrew her scrutinizing gaze and looked once more at the multicolored auspicious cloud, her voice heavy. "Cloud Wasteland Ancient Saint, do you truly mean to start a war between our realms?" The Cloud Wasteland Ancient Saint's voice remained as placid as a passing breeze. "The Sparkfire Venerable's words are my will. The Middle Continent does not merely want war, it will actively seek it. Unless the Hell Realm voluntarily retracts that Pavilion World artifact and completely seals the passage between the two realms." A wave of surprise rose in Fang Chen's heart. Could the Cloud Wasteland Ancient Saint's goal be to force the Hell Realm to withdraw the Pavilion World artifact, solving the problem once and for all? After all, she could not permanently oversee this continent. But on second thought, if that were the case, why then had she allowed the Asura Holy Son to return to the Hell Realm? If she had killed the Asura Holy Son, could she not also easily open the passage between worlds herself? Did she harbor even deeper machinations behind the scenes? The other shore Realm Lord gave a heavy snort. "Fine, then my Hell Realm will be waiting for you. We will ensure none of you return." Before the words had fully faded, the 1,000 jang projection swooped down, enveloped all the Asura Emperors in the area, and instantly whisked them away from the 11th layer. The multicolored auspicious cloud also slowly dissipated at that moment. Fang Chen's heart tightened, and he hurriedly called out, "Ancient Saint, wait, do you have any further edicts regarding this battle?" But the multicolored cloud did not pause at all, continuing to fade away until it disappeared completely from everyone's sight. Still, one cool, ethereal voice drifted over faintly. The voice uttered only 3 words: "Watch your path more." Huh. A huge question mark instantly popped up above Fang Chen's head. He turned blankly to the Grand Libationer and the other sages, only to find even larger question marks above their heads. "No, I asked for your edicts on the war, and you tell us to watch our path." Just what kind of riddle was this? Speechless Fang Chen couldn't help grumbling inwardly. This damned woman, can't she just speak plainly? With a sudden crack, a thunderbolt rang out, and a bolt of lightning as thick as an arm struck Fang Chen without warning, hitting him so hard his black hair stood completely on end. Fang Chen wiped his dust-streaked face, fully understanding he knew this would happen. Now he couldn't even curse this damned woman in his heart. The 9 Nether Fiend Venerable was dumbfounded. Are you all right?" he asked in astonishment. Fang Chen smoothed his hair with practiced ease, his tone calm. "I'm used to it. Let's leave quickly, lest the other Shore Realm Lord retaliate further." He paused, then added through gritted teeth, "That bitch, she's even worse than dirt. Be extremely careful around her." As soon as the words fell, a ferocious fire dragon burst forth from the direction of the Hell Realm, bearing fangs and brandishing claws as it lunged fiercely toward Fang Chen. What they? She actually heard. The group hurriedly shielded Fang Chen and retreated, narrowly escaping back to the 10th level. The 9 Nether Demon Sovereign couldn't help but chuckle, mocking him. "To be struck by 2 saint-level existences in a single day, you are the first person in the Central Plains." Fang Chen responded with a wry smile. When he saw the Asura King cowering in the distance, too timid to approach, his expression turned serious and he spoke. "Great Libationers, seniors. Please return swiftly to your respective grand states, mobilize the experts within, and gather at the 10th level without delay." Speed is the essence of war. If the Hell Realm gains the upper hand in their battle against the ancient giants and can spare their forces, our situation will become extremely perilous. Everyone's hearts tightened instantly. Winning this war was already beset with countless difficulties. The sole strategic opportunity was to strike, while the Hell Realm was preoccupied. Once they free up their hands, the consequences would be unimaginable. The Great Libationer of taking Grand State nodded immediately. "At most half a day, we can assemble all battle-ready forces." He switched tack, saying, "But first, let us fulfill a promise." Fang Chen paused briefly, then recalled that after he had secured first place in the primordial hunt, the Great Libationers had indeed said that his merit was immense, and they vowed to bestow upon him a grand gift. Whatever he desired within the Central Plains, they would help him obtain. Now that the fires of war have reignited, the Great Libationers decided to fulfill this promise to Fang Chen before the great battle. Fang Chen's heart stirred, and irrepressible excitement shone in his eyes as he hastily brought out the primordial heaven, imprisoning Gourd. He had already made up his mind what he wanted. That is, to use the Great Libationer's law power to illuminate the yellow region of the primordial heaven, imprisoning Gourd. Once the yellow Gourd is activated, it can capture sages within. In the current battle against the Hell Realm, it is exactly what is needed. With burning gaze, he spoke. "I wish to ask all Great Libationers to use your law power to illuminate the yellow region of this Gourd." Upon hearing this, the laughing Great Libationer of 10,000 Demons Grand State chuckled heartily. She said brightly, "No need to be so formal. We offered you anything obtainable in the Central Plains, yet you only ask us to expend some law power. You truly aren't treating us as your own people. Compared to Fang Chen's monumental merits, what is a bit of law power? Even if the treasure in Fang Chen's hand is extraordinary, surely any one of us Great Libationers could easily activate it." "What kind of request is that?" Fang Chen grinned and handed the gourd to her. "Then let's start with you, senior." The laughing Great Libationer laughed, simple. She gently pressed her palm onto the gourd, and her vast law power surged into it like a tidal wave. She had thought it would be easy, but who knew, after consuming a full tenth of her law power, the orange region of the gourd had only gained a faint luster. The laughing Great Libationer muttered to herself, no matter, a laughing girl won't have bad luck." She gritted her teeth and continued pouring in power. Soon, over half of her law power was drained, but the orange region was only beginning to brighten, still far from activation. Before long, the laughing Great Libationer had completely exhausted all of her law power. The orange region was finally fully illuminated. But now she could no longer laugh, staring blankly at the gourd with an expression of existential doubt. She murmured, Even a world artifact wouldn't require this much law power to activate, would it? Fang Chen shrugged and then handed the gourd to the weeping great libationer of Betrothed. Void state, smiling, "Senior, you give it a try too." The weeping great libationer tremblingly placed her hand on it. Before long, her face turned ashen, her frail body shivering, clearly suffering severe overdraft of law power. Tears uncontrollably streamed down her cheeks as she cried, "Woo woo, woo, I'm utterly useless. I can't even light up a single gourd." Fang Chen then passed the gourd to the remaining great libationers one by one, and each of them, without exception, exhausted their law power. In the end, after the final great libationer of taking Grand State had also used up his law power, the yellow region was still not fully lit. It only seemed to glow, far from being usable. Fang Chen couldn't help but click his tongue. This is way too difficult, isn't it? According to his estimation, illuminating the yellow region would require the law power of a sage of the 3 calamities. Yet now, with 9 great libationers combined, 2 at the 2 calamities realm, and 7 at the 1 calamity realm, they still couldn't fully light up a mere yellow gourd. The great libationer of taking Grand State, his face somewhat pale, apologized. "We are sorry, we can only help you this far." The laughing great libationer could no longer laugh at all. She wailed, "I can't believe I thought you had good intentions and would let us take advantage. I was too naive, woo, woo, woo." It was over. The laughing great libationer had truly become the weeping great libationer. The only consolation was that they could finally leave. But Fang Chen suddenly spoke up. "Hold on, great libationers." He produced the law-replenishing wine with a smile and said slyly, "If we don't fully light up this yellow gourd today, no one is leaving." The great libationers were stunned speechless. Was he planning to work them like the giants? But having made their promise, the great libationers could only smile bitterly and serve as human consumables. They drank the law-replenishing wine, restored their law power, and continued infusing the gourd. Once the 9 great libationers, gritting their teeth, had completed another round, the yellow region was finally fully illuminated. Fang Chen grasped the gourd tightly in his hand, feeling an unprecedented sense of security. He finally had a mighty killer weapon that could directly challenge a sage. Aside from a top-tier existence like the 9 Suns Giant Emperor, few could withstand the gourd's capturing force. Without this yellow gourd in hand, it would likely be impossible to deal with that fellow. With this gourd, he could practically swagger unopposed between the Hell Realm and the Celestial Realm. Fang Chen was elated and immediately cupped his hands toward the distance, calling out loudly, "Many thanks, great libationers." Looking over, the 9 great libationers' faces were all somewhat pale. They hastily swallowed some law-replenishing wine, and, not daring to linger a moment longer, turned and left. The 9 Nether Demon Sovereign and the ancient Zen Buddha Venerable were even more terrified, afraid that Fang Chen might call out, "Wait, seniors." They hurriedly followed behind, fleeing as fast as they could. After these sages departed, the distant Asura King finally dared to approach. With a trace of urgency on her face, she got straight to the point. "Fang Chen, the war between the Central Plains and the Hell Realm was deliberately instigated by the Asura Holy Son. He intends to harvest merit from the dead souls of both realms. Your Central Plains must not fall for it." From a distance, she had already clearly heard the conversation between Fang Chen and the Central Plains sages, and she knew that the Central Plains was preparing to take the initiative and start the war between the 2 realms. Fang Chen showed a hint of apology on his face and slowly shook his head. "Senior, it's no longer important. The Central Plains has no choice but to seek peace through war. I hope you can understand." He paused slightly, then looked sincerely at the Asura King and said solemnly, "The only thing I can do is, when I encounter Asura clansmen of your lineage, spare their lives as much as possible, and this is limited to myself alone. On the battlefield, showing mercy to the enemy is a grave taboo." Fang Chen owes a debt of gratitude to the Asura King's lineage, which is why he must show leniency to her clansmen. As for the other Central Plains warriors, Fang Chen will only instruct them to kill the enemy with all their might, without a shred of mercy, otherwise it would only endanger their own lives. The Asura King's lips quivered. She lowered her head, her eyes filled with desolation, and softly sighed, "Thank you." She had not a trace of resentment, for this matter was not Fang Chen's fault, nor the Central Plains. The Central Plains was also forced into this situation. If you must blame, blame the Asura Holy Son for instigating the war for his own selfish gain. If you must blame, blame the Hell Realm for its unquenchable ambition, still refusing to retract the Loft World artifact. She slowly turned around and gazed at the silver coffin of Empress Dugu, her voice hoarse. Since war is inevitable, to prevent my lord's body from being damaged, please keep it safe on my behalf. Pausing, she added, if you ever have the chance to go to Fengdu in the Hell Realm, deliver the coffin to the Asura clan there. Fengdu is the territory of our creation Asura clan branch. My master is the lord of Fengdu, the wife of the Northern Yin realm lord. If you bring her remains back, no one will trouble you. Fang Chen was taken aback and blurted out, why don't you go yourself? He quickly added, the passage to the Hell Realm is now open. You could easily take the young master and the master's remains back yourself. With your years of meritorious service guarding her body and caring for the young master, the Northern Yin realm lord would certainly not treat you poorly. Before he finished speaking, a faint yet intensely foul stench of decay drifted over. Smell was akin to the heavenly man decay of humans, but even more putrid, carrying a thick, corpse-like aura. Fang Chen's pupils sharply contracted as he stared at Ayu Asura King, his voice filled with shock and suspicion. Ayu Asura King, however, revealed a faint smile and nodded calmly, as you can see, my time is near. What? A surge of indescribable, complex emotion suddenly welled up in Fang Chen's heart. Ayu Asura King, the first deity transformation expert he had ever met, and the venerable senior who had altered Liu Ruxu's fate. Now he, Fang Chen, had also reached the deity transformation realm. Yet this guide of his was about to fall. His heart clenched. He hastily retrieved a grain of temporal dust and offered it. Senior, try this. It can extend one's life by 50 years. Ayu Asura King glanced at the temporal dust, a surprised smile touching her lips, but she gently shook her head. So it is temporal dust. Your fortune is truly profound to possess such a treasure. However, it is of no use to me now. She sighed and explained, because of the karma of creation bestowed by my master, my lifespan has long exceeded its natural limits. Items that prolong life cannot break through that destined boundary. Fang Chen stood frozen, an uncontrollable sorrow spreading through his eyes. Seeing his expression, Ayu Asura King gave a kind smile and instead comforted him. Child, do not grieve. I have been trapped here for 1,000 years, utterly alone. This departure, is it not a form of release? As she spoke, she slowly took out a jade disc inscribed with Hellrealm script and placed it in Fang Chen's hand, saying softly, I could not attend your wedding with Ruxu. This jade disc is the only thing I have left. Consider it a belated wedding gift. Fang Chen accepted the jade disc in silence, his mouth opening as if to speak, but his throat felt choked, and in the end he knew not what to say. 1,000 years, forever trapped on the 10th level, with not a soul to speak to. What kind of bone, deep loneliness was this? Were it not for the young master, she would likely have long since passed away amidst those endless years. Ayu Asura King's gaze grew distant, her voice ethereal. In a way, I must even thank that ancient giant. Just as my end drew near and the young master was still too young to be entrusted to anyone, the heaven-piercing black pillar appeared and altered the underground world's structure. It was that which caused you to fall from the 9th level to the 10th, and allowed the young master to meet Ruxu. She slowly turned, gazing at the floating silver coffin, and bowed deeply. Turbid mists filled her aged eyes as she said in a trembling voice, Old Master, Ayu, have I not failed you? 1,000 years, a full 1,000 years. From a young girl I have guarded until white, haired in old age. I think I have been worthy of your trust. Straightening up, her voice carrying endless weariness and release. Only, if there is a next life, let me be born a carefree young girl. This life has been far too tiring. With those words, leaning on her cane, she walked step by step, slowly toward the boundless abyss. Fang Chen's heart trembled. He abruptly stretched out his hand and cried urgently, Senior, where are you going? Ayu Asura King turned her head, her voice hoarse and soft. I wish to take one last look at my homeland. Child, farewell. May you and Ruxu love each other always. With those words, she leapt into the abyss, vanishing into the 11th level, now fully merged with the Hell Realm. Fang Chen's eyes instantly moistened. To return to her roots, that was Ayu Asura King's final wish. He took a deep breath, bowed deeply toward the abyss, and bid farewell in a grave voice. Senior Ayu, may your journey be smooth. He stood there for a long while before collecting himself, then looked at the jade disc left by Ayu Asura King and activated it with his deity transformation power. In an instant, a vast, majestic projection of light and shadow emerged from the disc and solidified in the air. It was unmistakably a towering, colossal map of a world, showing mountains, rivers, lakes, and seas, along with countless strange and perilous places, abysses, and sinister forests. Some regions were marked with names, Encirclement of Giant Mountain, Root of Hell, Fengdu, Prison of the Blood Lake, and more. This, astonishingly, was a map of the Hell Realm. For the central continent, which was about to assault the Hell Realm, this map represented an unimaginable strategic advantage. And Asura King and Asura herself had given this priceless map to him, her very enemy. To Fang Chen she had entrusted a weighty blessing that transcended race and allegiance. Senior Ayu? Fang Chen was deeply moved, his heart a turbulent mix of emotions. He solemnly stored the precious map, turned to gaze at the coffin of Empress Dugu, and silently made a resolution. If he could go to the Hell Realm, he would fulfill Senior Ayu's final wish and safely return Empress Dugu's remains to Fengdu. Just as he was lost in sorrow, he suddenly sensed a fleeting trace of Angel Clan aura within the attic world. Where did an angel come from? Fang Chen felt a jolt of surprise. Could it be that Ziakeoj had tired of her act and decided to reveal herself directly? On second thought, he immediately dismissed that idea. Ziakeoj should still be far away in Tianju at this moment. How could she have rushed to this underground world? But if not her, then who? Could it possibly be that white-robed skeleton from the Thunder God's heavenly palace? At the thought of that white-robed skeleton's heaven, penetrating, earth-piercing methods, Fang Chen's heart shuddered with fear. Without any show, he secretly readied the immortal king's indestructible bell, while tightly gripping Yu Mingju's hand. If it truly was that creature, he would immediately leap into the Hell Realm. That white-robed skeleton was of the Angel Clan, a mortal enemy of the Hell Realm. Surely it wouldn't dare barge into the Hell Realm to pursue him to the end, right? Yu Mingju, beside him, had been staring blankly in the direction Asura King vanished, tears streaming silently. Suddenly sensing Fang Chen's sudden tension, she became alert and whispered, "What's wrong?" Fang Chen pulled her urgently, retreating swiftly to the edge of the abyss. He lowered his voice and said gravely, "An invincible existence is approaching." Yu Mingju's pupils quivered slightly. This was the first time she had ever heard the word invincible from Fang Chen's mouth. Just how powerful must this enemy be? Amidst their rising alarm and uncertainty, without warning, a graceful figure materialized out of thin air before them, a white-robed woman with a pair of pure, holy white wings. Teleportation. Isn't that a deity transformation ability? Yu Mingju couldn't help but be stunned. Deity transformation. Was that even considered a formidable enemy nowadays? Well, she didn't mean to belittle deity transformation, but only relative to Fang Chen. In the current deity transformation realm, aside from the Great Venerable, no one could truly pose a lethal threat to Fang Chen. The rest were simply not enough. Moreover, this winged woman before them likely wasn't even that strong among deity transformation experts. At that moment, Fang Chen was also baffled. He stared at the miniature angel floating above the female angel's head, and was slightly taken aback. Is that a first breath, Archangel? Her strength should be equivalent to a human at the first decay of deity transformation. So after all that, it wasn't that white-robed skeleton. Fang Chen's heart, which had nearly leapt out of his throat, finally settled. He then studied the female angel who had appeared out of nowhere with astonishment, his heart still unsettled. Hey, Fang Chen, did I startle you? The female archangel spoke first, letting out a crisp, tinkling laugh. She crossed her arms, a smug smile curving at the corner of her lips. Fang Chen's heart was filled with bewilderment. This female angel actually recognized him. He pondered to himself, this absolutely shouldn't be. Ziakeoj was his only female ally in the heavenly realm. Who on earth was this angelic woman who had suddenly appeared? Now, in the entire central continent, only one place still possessed other angels. That place was the Thunder God Celestial Palace. But there, apart from the white-robed skeleton, there were only the corpses of the dead angel clan, no one else. Wait! Deep within Fang Chen's mind, a remnant soul that could eat, drink, and sleep suddenly surfaced. Meanwhile, Yu Mingju, after scrutinizing the female angel carefully, also sensed something amiss. A nine-colored light shimmered in her eyes, and she transmitted, "Husband, her body is a corpse." Upon hearing this, Fang Chen immediately confirmed his speculation. The person before him was none other than Hua Xin. Hua Xin stared fixedly at Fang Chen, her mind flooding with the aggrieved days of gnawing on yin energy carrots inside the soul crystal. Raging flames surged in her eyes. She pulled out a yin energy carrot and sneered murderously. "Ha ha ha, you dog. You don't know who I am, do you? Remembered now." Fang Chen then put on a look of sudden realization and chuckled. So it's an old friend. My apologies. I accidentally left you behind in the Thunder God Celestial Palace last time. Hua Xin was both furious and amused. She clenched her fingers, crushing the yin energy carrot until juice splattered everywhere. You shameless cur used me as a shield, and today I've come for revenge. You never dreamed my life would be this tough, did you? Not only did I return alive, but I've returned at the Divine Transformation Realm. Fang Chen was indeed somewhat surprised. He had originally thought that even if Hua Xin didn't die, she would be trapped in the Thunder God Celestial Palace. Yet she had actually escaped alive. This was truly illogical. He rubbed his chin and frowned. Why didn't the white-robed skeleton kill you? Hua Xin snorted, about to say I, of course, but suddenly remembered that she had survived by impersonating Fang Chen's most beloved wife. The white-robed skeleton had deemed her somewhat valuable, so he spared her life. So she guiltily changed her words. I relied on my own intelligence and wit, battling wits with that old thing to survive. Fang Chen looked straight into Hua Xin's eyes and mused inwardly. This woman has some petty cleverness. She's not stupid, but fighting wits. It's a far cry from that. He wondered how she had managed to bluff her way through. But none of that mattered now. Perplexed, he asked, you finally got away from the Thunder God Celestial Palace. Why not hide and instead come looking for me? Hua Xin was both furious and amused by this. Her aura, as an angel commander, surged like ocean waves, flames of anger rising in her eyes. Why? I endured hardships to finally attain divine transformation cultivation. How could I not avenge the abuse you heaped on me? You dog, prepare to die. You Mingzhu looked amazed, seeking revenge on Fang Chen. She even felt a bit sorry for this little female ghost. Ever since she'd met him, she'd always been bullied by Fang Chen. She coughed lightly and advised, Senior Hua Xin, let's just let it go. The Hell Realm has been connected. Since you're an entity of the Hell Realm, go back. Let bygones be bygones. Hua Xin sneered, let bygones be bygones. What, afraid I'll beat your sweetheart to death? Don't worry, I'll spare his life. Just like he did to me, I'll imprison his soul and slowly torture him. Before she finished speaking, she glared viciously at Fang Chen. You little dog thief, prepare to die. Then she instantly teleported away. She knew Fang Chen had many tricks, but he had one huge weakness. He couldn't counter divine transformation teleportation. As long as she was fast enough, she could break through all of Fang Chen's methods. HMPH, this is my first battle since recovering my divine transformation. I'll use you as my whetstone. Hua Xin snorted mid-teleport. However, out of the blue, a blur flashed before her eyes. Fang Chen, along with Yu Mingzhu, had actually followed her teleportation. Hua Xin was stunned. How could Fang Chen teleport too? Wasn't that a divine transformation ability? An unbelievable thought arose in her mind. You haven't also reached divine transformation, have you? Fang Chen shrugged and released the aura of the second heavenly decay. That aura far surpassed Hua Xin's, directly interrupting her teleportation. She fell from midair and crashed heavily onto the ground. Hua Xin's beautiful eyes went perfectly round with terror, the second heavenly decay. Could it be that while I spent a few days in the Thunder God Celestial Palace, several years have passed in the world? Fang Chen landed and smiled faintly. Not at all. I just cultivated a little faster. Hua Xin was utterly bewildered. When they left the Thunder God Celestial Palace, Fang Chen had only been at the 8 Aperture's nascent soul stage, and whether he could reach divine transformation in his lifetime was a huge question mark. How could it be that after just a few days apart, he was already at the second heavenly decay? Regaining her senses, Hua Xin's eyes darted, and she decisively flapped her wings, turning into an afterimage and teleporting toward the abyss. She was actually trying to flee back to the Hell Realm. There was a thunderous boom, but just as she teleported above the abyss, a 10, yanked, all multicolored small mountain came crashing down. The great mountain pressed her onto the earth with a rumble. Fang Chen took out the soul crystal and smiled slightly. Welcome back, my old friend. Seeing the all-too familiar soul crystal, Hua Xin hurriedly shouted, Hold on, see that thunder mark on my forehead that was left inside me by that mysterious skeleton. Once I'm killed, the mark will be triggered, and when I die, you'll all die too. Fang Chen was inwardly surprised. He had wondered how Hua Xin had obtained an angel's corpse. If the white-robed skeleton had condensed it for her, that would explain it. As for why the white-robed skeleton had released Hua Xin, it wasn't hard to guess. To capture Fang Chen and bring him back. Unfortunately, neither the white-robed skeleton nor Hua Xin had anticipated that Fang Chen had already reached the second heavenly decay. Hua Xin's arrival was like offering a meat bun to a dog. It was pure gain for Fang Chen. Hua Xin straightened up again and snorted, HMPH, scared now, release me quickly or I'll blow you up. Unexpectedly, Fang Chen rubbed his chin and mused, if we detonate the thunder mark on your forehead during the war with the Asura clan, could we cause wide-scale damage to the enemy? He reflected inwardly. The destructive power of a sage in a great war had already been demonstrated by the great libationers against the ancient giants. If the enemy lacked a sage, a single strike could shift the situation of an entire province. Thinking up to this point, his eyes gradually lit up, and then he laughed heartily. Thank you, Senior White-robed skeleton, for this grand gift. And thank you, old pal Hua Xin, for this sage strike. Hua Xin's mind took a moment to catch up. Fang Chen not only wasn't afraid, but was actually planning to use her as a human firework. Seeing Fang Chen swoop right up to her, Hua Xin's heart tightened, and she threatened loudly, don't come any closer, I really will self-destruct. Fang Chen shrugged, then go ahead and explode. As he spoke, he drew his violet lightning longsword and slashed straight at her neck. Hua Xin shrieked in terror, no, don't kill me. A humming wing sound rang out as the sword's resonance vibrated through the air. The violet lightning stopped just before her neck. The Yetan released sword Kai cutting a thin line of blood on her skin. Fang Chen looked at the thunder mark on Hua Xin's forehead, which had begun to flash, and nodded slightly. So, the self-detonation of the thunder mark doesn't depend on your will, but on your life and death. That puts my mind at ease. Such an important trump card, naturally, had to be verified clearly. Hua Xin's face flushed red, so it had been a test, and she had begged for mercy on the spot. Reflecting on her miserable state, she couldn't help but feel mortified and angry. Are you really not afraid that I'll self-destruct? Fang Chen looked her up and down and retorted, self-destruct you. This woman, as a remnant soul, survived for 1,000 years in the Attic world and lived quite cheerfully. How could she be someone who readily dies? However, her soul was bound to the thunder mark, so it couldn't be forcibly extracted. The soul crystal, designed specifically for souls, was now useless. And the immortal binding vine was already tied up with the Asura Empress and her family, not a bit of slack left. Thinking of the Asura Empress, Fang Chen's heart stirred. As a traitor to the Hell Realm, she could be an ally in the attack on the Hell Realm. He immediately released the Asura Empress alone. The Asura Empress recognized the place with just a glance, and her expression changed. How did you come to the underground world again? Then she looked solemnly toward the abyss, and sensed the familiar aura of the Hell Realm, exclaiming in surprise, is the Hell Realm below? Fang Chen lightly nodded. The Central Continent and the Hell Realm have been connected. If you wish to return to your homeland, I can release your family to the Hell Realm right now. The Asura Empress hurriedly said, don't, as a member of the Dark Asura clan, returning to the Hell Realm would be suicide. Just as the Asura Empress's thoughts raced, Fang Chen smiled leisurely. With a plan in mind, he said, that's not up to you. In half a day at most, the Central Plains will launch an offensive against the Infernal Realm, and I'll bring your family along to the battlefield. The Asura Empress instantly looked anxious and blurted out, what, are you taking us to our deaths? Fang Chen chuckled even more calmly and added softly, if Madame does not wish me harm, you could offer some help. Like extra blue wish paper, or something like that causality and such. Since learning the Asura Empress's true identity, Fang Chen had never dared to underestimate her in the slightest. As the wife of the Nine Hells Asura Emperor, how could she not possess top-grade protective treasures or weapons capable of annihilating enemies? If she lacked the capital to move unhindered, how would she dare venture alone into the mortal realm and set foot in the Central Plains? Thus she could undoubtedly play a massive role in the chaos to come. The Asura Empress's phoenix eyes glared fiercely at him. This scoundrel was still coveting her treasures. However, she did not refuse outright. If they really went to the Infernal Realm, Fang Chen would face near certain death, inevitably dragging her family down with him. She gritted her teeth and spoke with extreme reluctance. When we reach the Infernal Realm, I will protect you in danger. As long as it's not their Nine Hells Asura Emperor or a Realm Lord's avatar causing trouble, I can guarantee your life. Fang Chen was secretly startled. He had said it before, this Empress of the Dark Asura clan was definitely extraordinary. He felt greatly reassured, cupped his hands in salute with a smile. Madame is most righteous. However, I would like Madame to demonstrate her strength. Here is an angel. Does Madame have a way to control her? Angel? Only then did the Asura Empress notice Huaxin suppressed under the 5 magnetic origin mountain. She frowned slightly. This angel. Has she been possessed? Huaxin also noticed the Asura Empress and instinctively loathed her, cursing. Where did this old woman from the Dark Asura clan come from? The Asura Empress narrowed her phoenix eyes and said coldly, "So it's a soul of the Asura race. Heh, an angel's body with an Asura's soul. Both things I detest." As she spoke, she very straightforwardly took out a small black leather whip and handed it to Fang Chen, adding, "A gift." The small whip was entirely pitch black, its body shrouded in strands of dancing black flames. Fang Chen reached out to take it, weighed it in his hand, and vaguely felt the design looked somewhat familiar. "Why does it look like a prop used only by certain special enthusiasts?" he asked in puzzlement. "Who do you want me to whip?" The Asura Empress rolled her eyes at him irritably. "Nonsense. Her, of course. Or did you want to whip me?" Fang Chen's gaze circled around her beautiful face, then fell onto the small whip in his hand. Whipping the Empress, well, it wasn't entirely out of the question. At that moment, the Asura Empress also realized how easily this little whip could be misunderstood. Her expression stiffened, and she subconsciously covered her collar. She hurriedly explained, "This is a magical treasure, specifically designed to restrain angels. Their essence blood is condensed into the whip. No matter where the target is, when the whip is lashed, the pain directly afflicts her soul. To date, very few angels have ever endured the agony of this whip." Fang Chen raised an eyebrow and walked over to Huexin. Following his principle of wasting nothing, he carefully smeared the essence blood dripping from her neck onto the whip. The black flames on the small whip suddenly surged violently, swelling several times in intensity. Under the scorching heat, Huexin involuntarily shrank her neck, vaguely sensing the whip's profound threat to her soul. Fang Chen put away the 5 magnetic origin mountain and said with a grin, "Old friend, I'll give you 3 breaths to flee. If you can escape, you'll be free, all right." Huexin stared fearfully at the little whip, shaking her head like a rattle. "Drum, no running, no running, I'm not running." Could a treasure personally given by the Asura Empress be fake? She had no desire to court unnecessary suffering. Fang Chen curled his lip in disappointment. He had hoped to test the whip's power. The Asura Empress was equally disappointed, letting out a light snort. The whip's damage increases with distance. "Had you run farther, you would likely be dead under the whip by now." So she had been concealing this bit of information. Huexin instantly flared up. "You vicious old hag." The Asura Empress retorted tit for tat. "As far as age goes, I might not be older than you." Even through the angel's body, she could sense that Huexin's remnant soul aura was extremely extraordinary, possibly the remnant of some sage. Seeing the 2 women about to launch into a spit fight over age, Fang Chen hurriedly stuffed the Asura Empress back into the spatial mirror and tied her up. As for Huexin, when he looked again, he saw Huexin actually take out a reclining chair and boldly place it in front of the abyss. She stretched lazily, settled comfortably onto it, then pulled out a book and a yin energy carrot, munching on the carrot while reading the book. She mumbled indistinctly from the book, "If life rapes you and you cannot resist, learn to enjoy it." Fang Chen nearly spat out a mouthful of blood, who wanted to rape Huexin. And had Huexin been reading such evil books all along? Still, he dared not let his guard down. That Huexin was full of cunning tricks. She appeared docile now only because she couldn't escape. Given the chance, she would pounce on Fang Chen and bite him viciously. But this was for the best. With her knowing her place, Fang Chen could save himself a lot of worry. At that moment, he suddenly felt a squirming at his waist. Looking down, he saw that the pouches from the 2 ancient giants were bulging and writhing. His head instantly buzzed. "Oh crap, how could I have forgotten them?" Fang Chen quickly removed the 2 pouches, immediately opening the noticeably deflated one. A stream of figures flashed out. It was the members of the Heavenly Secret Pavilion. Earlier, when the Asura Holy Son unleashed a sky full of dense demonic fluid, Fang Chen had used the 5 magnetic origin mountain to shield the Heavenly Secret Pavilion members underneath. After falling into the void, he had temporarily stored them in the pouches. But then he encountered the Asura Holy Son and descended to the 11th underground layer, completely forgetting about them. Gu Zinner was the first to poke her head out, her hair damp. After all, the pouches were mere spaces. With so many people crammed together, how could it have been comfortable? She looked around and muttered, "Where the heck have you brought us?" Xiakeoj replied without thinking, "The 10th layer of the underworld." A bright glint flashed in her crystalline eyes. She was so certain because this was one of the few places Fang Chen had visited with her. She remembered every place where their footprints had been shared. Gazing at the familiar abyss and the familiar coffins, a nostalgic smile rose on her lips. Until she spotted the angel lying there reading a book, and she couldn't help covering her mouth. "Uncle, Master, that's..." She thought she was seeing things an angel here. Fang Chen replied casually, "That's Huaxin, ignore her." Zia Keoj felt relieved and mused to herself, "Oh, it's that pitiful little ghost girl." But as she gazed at Fang Chen's back, a tinge of guilt quietly rose in her heart. She didn't know how to explain her identity to Fang Chen. Perhaps there wouldn't be time after all. Liu Ruxu came over holding the unicorn young master, softly asking, "Husband, where is Senior Yu?" Fang Chen's expression dimmed, and he briefly told her about the two realms being connected and the death of Asura King Yu. Hearing this, Liu Ruxu staggered, tears of sorrow condensing and falling from her eyes. She set down the young master and bowed deeply toward the abyss. Senior Yu's kindness, Ruxu will never forget. "I will take good care of the young master." Without Asura King Yu, how could she, Liu Ruxu, have reached this day? With her ordinary talent, she would have been left far behind by Fang Chen, fading from his world like Wu Manyu. Fang Chen remained silent. Just for the kindness Asura King Yu had shown Liu Ruxu, he would fulfill her dying wish and safely deliver Empress Dugu's body to Fengdu. Suddenly, a figure materialized from emptiness and hurried over. It was the Fang Chen Yipin Pavilion Master, bringing Venerable Zhenyan, Great Demon Hongmo, and other divine transformation realm experts from Taikang Great Prefecture. Seeing that Fang Chen was unharmed, everyone secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fang Shan, Master of the First Grade Pavilion, immediately asked, "Where is the Asura Holy Son?" Fang Chen briefly recounted the matter, and the expressions of everyone present abruptly turned solemn. This sudden war had caught them completely off guard. Moreover, the foe they were to battle was none other than the immeasurably mighty Hell Realm. Fang Chen, however, said with grave earnestness, since the ancient sage intends to provoke a war between the two realms, it must be a decision born of deep deliberation. Either our casualties will not be too severe, or there is a benefit so great that it is worth exhausting every powerhouse of this generation in the Central Plains to secure. All we need do is commit ourselves wholly to preparing for battle." Upon hearing this, their faces grew heavy. One after another, they sat cross-legged on the spot, seizing the moment to regulate their breathing and ready themselves for the coming fight. As it happened, they had all just received rewards from the ancient sage's divine merit steel, making this the perfect chance to fully digest them. Zhenyan revered, one took out the liquid droplet gifted by Sage Wuhan, preparing to break through the three declines of heaven and man in one fell swoop. The jade paper, heavenly scripture in his bosom, also howled as it flew out, coming to hover directly above Empress Dugu's coffin platform. It sized her up for a moment, its eyes gleaming as it said, "What a stunning beauty. She is in no way inferior to how I looked back in my day."